A Good Girl's A Guide to Murder opens by showing 5 friends who have just come home from school. One of them is a teenage girl named Pippa, the main character in this series. They have been friends for quite some time, and on their way home, they see a mural of a girl named Andy who disappeared years ago. The next day, we will also see Pippa's stepfather, Victor, and her half-brother, Josh, and her biological mother, Lean. Today is the first day of the school holidays, but Pippa is busy working on her EPQ. EPQ is an extended project qualification that can add value to entering the targeted university in England and Wales. Pippa starts this morning by taking her dog for a walk. She sees some kids playing pranks on house, and Pippa scolds them. This house belongs to the same family, one of whose children is Andy's boyfriend. Although Andy was not found, her boyfriend committed suicide and admitted to killing Andy, causing her family to experience a lot of discrimination. Pippa remembers 5 years ago when she was at school. She saw Andy crying, entered a room, and asked Pippa not to tell anyone. Shortly after, Andy's boyfriend Sal asked where Andy was, and Pippa told him. The next day, Andy disappeared, and Sal committed suicide. Then Pippa called one of her female friends named Kara. Pippa decided that she would investigate Andy's disappearance for her EPQ assignment. Kara told her that the case had been solved because Sal admitted to killing Andy before committing suicide. However, Pippa felt something was strange because there had never been an examination, and she knew Sal was a good man who would not have done this. Pippa began her investigation by making her bedroom wall into a murder board to facilitate her investigation. Based on the news 5 years ago, Andy was last seen driving a car at 10:38 p.m. from CCTV in the town square. 5 days later, Sal's body was found in the forest with death due to suicide after admitting to killing Andy. Sal's brother was the last person to see Sal at 12:50 p.m. before committing suicide. Until now, Andy's body has not been found. Later, Pippa takes her dog for a walk, but it's just a cover because she knows Sal's brother Ravi will come and tag along. Ravi asks why Pippa is following him, and Pippa replies that she's just walking her dog. Pippa asks if she can ask him for her EPQ about Andy and Sal's case. Ravi gets defensive and doesn't want to be asked, so Pippa leaves him alone. Pippa continued walking with her dog until she reached the forest. In the forest, she saw a hut. There was no one there, but it seemed like someone lived there. On the wall, she could see Andy's name written. At the same time, Pippa saw someone who looked like Andy jogging. Pippa chased after her, but she saw it wrongly. This woman was not Andy but her sister, Becca. Then Pippa and her best friend went to Kara's house. Pippa asked if Kara's sister Naomi was at home. Kara answered so that Pippa would not involve her sister in her investigation because Naomi was Sal's best friend and she was still sad even though 5 years had passed. Pippa promised that she would not question Naomi and went to get snacks. But she used this opportunity to enter Naomi's room. There she saw many photos of Naomi with Sal and other friends that showed they were very close. While in the kitchen, Pippa met Naomi, who was looking for a job. Pippa told Naomi that for her EPQ, she would investigate the case of Andy's disappearance. Since Naomi was close to Sal, Pippa wanted to ask about Sal from Naomi's perspective. Pippa asked about everything on the day Andy disappeared. Naomi answered that night she, Sal, and their 2 friends were at one of their friends' house named Max playing Super Mario Party. Sal came home early at 10:30, and at 10:38, Andy was last seen driving a car in the square. However, from Sal's statement, he only came home at 12:50. If Sal came home from Max's house at 10:30 and arrived home at 12:50, the question is, where was Sal from 10:30 to 12:50? Their conversation ended after Naomi and Kara's father, Elliot, came home after tutoring. While at home, Pippa checked Naomi's Instagram and saw how close Naomi was to her best friend. Pippa sent a message to one of Naomi's best friends, Max. She explained that she was working on Andy's case assignment as her EPQ and wanted to interview him. However, he didn't answer. The next day is Max's parents' wedding anniversary. Pippa and Kara work as waitresses at the event. But this is a cover because Pippa wants to see Max because she knows he will be there. When her work starts to decrease, Pippa enters the house following Max and finally gets to talk to him. Pippa wants to ask him something and Max agrees, but he wants Pippa to drink alcohol every time he answers. At first, Pippa refuses, but because Max doesn't want to be asked, Pippa is forced to accept this challenge. The interview with Max Hastings is like an interrogation. The first question is, Naomi explains that on the night Andy disappeared, Max, Sal, Naomi, and Jack were playing Super Mario Party. What time did Sal come home? Max answers that they were playing FIFA and that Sal came home early at 10:30. The second question, Naomi says that Sal has an alibi and Naomi didn't have time to tell Pippa, so she asked Max. Max answers that Sal's alibi is his best friend. That night, Sal asks Max, Naomi, and Jack to lie to the police and says that Sal stayed at Max's house until 12:15. However, when he finds out that Andy is missing, Max tells the police the truth. Max explained that he did not know Andy and had never spoken to her. Max asked what Pippa was trying to achieve by doing this investigation. Pippa replied that she thought Sal was innocent. Max added that Sal, who he knew, could not have killed Andy, but Sal confessed to the murder and then committed suicide by overdosing on drugs. After the interview ended, Pippa returned to work even though she was a little drunk. Kara asked Pippa to go home, but Pippa told her that on the night Andy disappeared, Max said they were playing FIFA, while Naomi said they were playing Super Mario Party. Hearing this made Kara realize that Pippa had violated her request not to involve Naomi in her investigation. They argued, and this made their relationship worse. Unknowingly, Pippa was in front of Rady's house, so she decided to meet him. Pippa explained that she came here to apologize. Pippa wanted Rady to know that her investigation was not just a school assignment for her. Pippa always thought Sal was innocent because Sal was always nice to her. Hearing this, Ravi invited Pippa to Sal's room and showed her Sal's cell phone. From his WhatsApp, it was seen that Sal always sent messages with cheesy writing to anyone, but when he admitted that he killed Andy, his writing was written formally. It was very different from what he usually wrote. Seeing this, Pippa realized that the person who sent this confession message was not Sal. Pippa took Sal's cell phone and checked his messages to Andy. On the day before Andy disappeared, they argued. After questioning Sal's friends, Max and Naomi, except Jack, Pippa decided she now had to interrogate Andy's friends. The first was a woman named Emma, who moved house so that it was quite far from Pippa's house. Emma explained that she, Andy, and another friend named Nat were very close. Pippa asked about Andy and Sal's relationship. Emma explained that Sal could make Andy very happy. They had never even had sex because Sal wanted to wait until they were married, and they had never fought either. Hearing this, Pippa thought something was wrong because, from Sal's cell phone and his memory of 5 years ago, it was seen that Andy and Sal argued the day before Andy disappeared. However, Emma becomes defensive because Pippa thinks she knows Andy better than her best friend. When Pippa was in her room, her mother came to see her and saw her investigation's progress. Pippa's mother does not forbid her from conducting her investigation, but she begs Pippa not to interview Andy's family because they are still grieving. Later, Pippa and Rady meet, and Pippa explains all her progress, including her latest interview with Emma. Pippa wants to meet Nat, and Ravi remembers Nat because a few months before Andy disappeared, Nat's nude photos were spread around the school. Pippa asks Ravi's opinion about Sal's last message to Andy. Ravi thinks that Andy's father doesn't like Andy's relationship with Sal because of racist reasons. Later, Pippa goes to Kara's house. She apologizes for involving Naomi in her investigation, even though Kara forbade it. Kara explains that after their mother's death, Naomi was depressed, coupled with Sal's death, which made her even worse. Pippa tells her about Nat's nude photos that were spread 5 years ago. Kara asks if Naomi knows about it. Naomi overhears their conversation and explains that Nat is not the right person to be an enemy. Naomi tells her that she knows Nat at their tennis club. Coincidentally, next week is Kara and Nat scheduled to compete. As time passes, Pippa and her best friends gather at Kara's match with Nat to support her. Kara wins, and it becomes clear that Nat has a temper problem. After the match, Pippa meets Nat in the bathroom. Nat is Andy's best friend, in addition to Emma. Pippa explains that she is working on a project about Andy's disappearance and wants to ask her some questions. Pippa asks what Andy is like to Nat. The girl answers that Andy is a kind and warm woman. If Andy has a flaw, she is attracted to the wrong people and starts sleeping with new people. Pippa is surprised because Andy hasn't even slept with Sal. Pippa becomes curious, but Nat doesn't want to say anything more. She only advises Pippa to be careful with what she is investigating, then leaves. Pippa reunites with her friends. Pippa sees Nat standing on the side of the road, waiting for someone to pick her up. Not long after, Nat's brother Dan picks her up and Pippa sees him at Max's party. As Pippa walks home, Dan deliberately looks at her from inside the car and scares Pippa, but Dan doesn't do anything. Pippa will go camping with her 4 friends in the woods tonight to celebrate Kara's birthday. Before leaving, Pippa meets Rady first and explains her conversation with Nat. They think it seems like Emma and Nat haven't been in touch for a long time because Emma moved to the city. Ravi asks for Emma's number and pretends to be Nat using her number. Ravi asks if Pippa asked him about Andy as an excuse to send a message. Pippa sends a message as if she's afraid Nat will slip up and tell her about Andy's complicated love life. Unexpectedly, Emma answers that it turns out Andy has a secret man who is older than her. If this secret man is Andy's lover, this makes the possibility that Sal killed Andy even stronger because of jealousy. However, Pippa thinks that because Andy now has two lovers, it could be that this secret adult man killed Andy. Ravi and Pippa are already at Kara's house to pick her up for the camping site. Pippa introduces Ravi to Kara because this is the first time they meet. Ravi goes to work on foot while Pippa and her best friend prepare for camping. They spend the day swimming in the lake. At night, they camp around the forest to celebrate Kara's birthday. They talk about Andy's case, which Pippa is investigating. If it is true that Sal did not kill Andy, it means that the real killer is still free, and the real killer may target Pippa because she tried to reveal the truth. Time passes and the five of them sleep in one tent. Lauren wants to pee, so she wakes Pippa and Kara up to take her outside. When they are about to return to the tent, they see a light from the forest that seems like someone is there. Kara and Lauren are scared, but Pippa chases whoever is into the forest. Pippa falls and cannot see clearly who is there, but Kara manages to find Pippa. Now they wake up and become alert because they fear the mysterious person from before is targeting them or Pippa. They think the mysterious person will not return, so they decide to go back to sleep. However, Pippa finds a paper under her pillow when they are about to sleep. The note ordered her to stop investigating Andy's case, meaning the mysterious person had come here to keep this threatening note. Pippa chose not to tell her best friend about this note. The next day, they rushed home and got home safely. While dropping Kara off, Pippa saw Max arguing with Naomi. When Pippa arrived at her house, she wrote down the names of people she suspected from Naomi, Max, Jason, Andy's father, Nose Stealer, or Dan, Nat's older brother, the secret adult man, and Nat. When she saw the photo of Andy's father's press conference, she realized there was a young police officer there. Pippa realized that the policeman was Dan, Nat's older brother. Pippa invited Ravi to her room to show her research results. Pippa explained that Dan was one of the police officers on duty in Andy's disappearance case. Pippa thought that maybe Dan was the secret adult man, Andy's lover. Andy's Instagram posts show that Andy, Nat, and Emma were always together until 2 weeks before Andy disappeared. After that, there were only Andy and Emma, who seemed to be avoiding them for something. April was also the time when Nat's nude photos were spread. Pippa thought that maybe Andy was the one who spread the photos, giving Nat a reason to kill Andy. Also, Nat's brother, a police officer, might cover up Nat's mistake, so Sal becomes the scapegoat. But of course, they don't have any evidence. Then they go to a place, and not long after, Nat comes because she thinks Emma asked her to meet. But it's Pippa and Ratty. Pippa says she knows Andy spread Nat's nude photos. Nat realizes that Pippa thinks that she killed Andy to get revenge because Andy spread her nude photos. Nat denies it, but Ravi knows that Nat avoids Andy and Emma before Andy disappears. Nat explains that Andy started to change. Andy often met a man who was a source of problems. Nat advised Andy to stay away from him, but Andy never listened to her. Max is that man, Sal's best friend. Now Pippa thinks that maybe this secret adult man is Max, even though Max previously said that he didn't know Andy and never talked to her. Pippa and Ravi went in different directions home, so they separated. However, Pippa doesn't go home and goes to Max's house. Max's father greeted her, and Pippa said she was Max's friend, so she was allowed in. When Pippa enters Max's room, Max takes a shower, making the room empty. Pippa uses this to search his room, but she finds nothing. When she looks at the photo of Max with his 3 friends, she finds a naked photo of Andy behind the photo frame. Pippa takes the photos and Max catches her looking at the photo. Pippa accuses Max of having an affair with Andy. Max denies it and explains that he found the photo at school and took it so it wouldn't spread. Pippa doesn't believe it and shows Sal's message to Andy, who seems to know Andy's secret about having an affair with Max. But Max still denies it and explains that Andy is selling drugs. Max knows this because he is one of her customers. Andy is not the dealer, but she works for the drug dealer. Pippa wants to know who this drug dealer is, but Max doesn't know either. But Pippa can find him at a party of popular people at school. A few days later, the summer holidays ended and school started as usual. Pippa told her best friend that she wanted to join the Calamity Party. The problem is that this party is exclusive, and only those invited know when and where the party will be held. However, this did not reduce Pippa, Lauren, and Kara's desire to try to join this party at least once before they graduate from school. They checked the social media of popular people at school to find information about this party. Pippa thought the black ribbon was a sign because she saw it in the forest from one of the Instagram posts showing a black ribbon with the caption 5 more days. This was a sign that there would be a party on the weekend. Kara received a message from Naomi, who had attended this party. She told her that the location of this party would be spread during the day before the party started. Pippa met one of the popular students and tricked him so that she could make his TikTok account fight with her settings. When Pippa held his cell phone, she used it to check his DEM, which showed the Black Banana Bears code was the location code for the party, but she didn't know what it meant. However, after thinking long and hard, Pippa managed to find it, which turned out to be in the middle of the forest. Then Pippa said that she would go to the Calamity Party and invite Rowdy, but Ravi refused because after Sal was accused of killing Andy. This made people see him as if he was also guilty. Pippa attended this party to meet the drug dealer who employed Andy. Ravi didn't know anything but could only ask Pippa to be careful. According to the coordinates, Pippa, Kara, and Lauren went to the forest at night. A light in a cave indicated that the Calamity Party would be held there. This place was filled with teenagers partying wildly. They went through this cave and found people playing sex games. Pippa and Lauren joined this game, and Pippa had to go with a man named Dylan. Dylan and Pippa went to a quiet place where they were supposed to have sex. But of course, Pippa refused by saying that she needed drugs to make her excited. Dylan worked for a drug dealer, so Pippa wanted to meet his dealer. Dylan agreed and took Pippa to meet his drug dealer who was running this party. Pippa entered alone and introduced herself as Dylan's friend. The drug dealer explained that Dylan owed him 60 pounds. Pippa was willing to pay it, but she had 3 questions, and the drug dealer named Howie agreed. The first question was whether it was true that Andy worked for him before she disappeared, and Howie agreed to this question. The second question was what kind of drugs he sold. Howie answered like marijuana, ketamine, and rohypnol. Pippa knew rohypnol, which is a drug that is usually used to rape someone. Howie also explained that Andy usually kept her drugs in her rabbit doll. The last question was where Howie was on the day Andy disappeared. Howie thought that Pippa accused him of killing Andy. Pippa became scared, so she ran away and felt dizzy. Dylan approached Pippa and asked her to have sex, but a woman separated them and saved Pippa. This woman was kind and took Pippa out of the cave. Pippa, who was scared, went home without telling Kara and Lauren. When at home, Pippa did not sleep in her room, but in her brother's room. The next day, while Pippa is walking alone, Andy's sister, Becca, meets her and she finds out that Pippa is investigating Andy's disappearance. Becca asks why Pippa is doing this investigation. Pippa replies that she is trying to find the truth, but Becca denies it by saying that people usually do things like this for themselves. Today, Pippa was supposed to meet Rowdy at the bar where he works, but when Pippa arrived, she changed her mind and went to a cafe. She told Rowdy that she couldn't meet him. When Pippa was in her room, her mother came to see her. Pippa's mother knew there was something different about Pippa after last night's party. Pippa's mother knew it was related to Andy's case, which she was investigating. Pippa's mother suggested not to disturb the family who lost their family member, and Pippa should change her investigation project. Pippa's mother even told Elliot to help Pippa change her topic. Pippa agreed, but even though Pippa agreed to change her project, it didn't mean she would stop this investigation. Now she focused on the drugs sold by Howie and Andy. The next day, Pippa and Rowdy met. Pippa explained that Andy was selling drugs and kept the goods in a stuffed rabbit. Andy also had a disposable cell phone that might have a clue. Pippa had a crazy plan to sneak into Andy's room to find the phone and the drugs. After Becca left, Ray was on guard outside while Pippa would sneak into the house. Pippa found the house key after checking the flower pots in the backyard so she could enter. Pippa went to Andy's room, which still had much of her stuff. Andy had a lot of dolls, and Pippa destroyed Andy's rabbit doll, but she didn't find anything. Becca returned, and Rowdy sent a warning message to Pippa. But Pippa didn't look at her phone. Because he was worried that Becca would come into the house, Rowdy entered the house. At the same time, Pippa managed to find another doll, and Rowdy met her because Becca was already there. They hid in the closet because Becca heard a noise in Andy's room, so she checked it. When she was going to check the closet, someone turned on the bell, so Becca went to the front door. From the previous rabbit doll, they found some drugs and paper, but there was no phone there. Now Rady and Pippa must find a way to escape this place. The guest who came was Dan, who seemed to have a good relationship with Becca. Pippa and Rady escape when they are careless in the car and leave, but Dan realizes them even though they haven't done anything. They went to a quiet place to check the doll they stole. They found many types of drugs and paper that had a code written on it. Rady realized that the initials were the buyer's name, the type of drug purchase, and the amount. One of them might be Andy's killer. But who are they? Then Pippa quickly went to school because she had an interview with a representative from Cambridge today. The interview went smoothly, and when asked about her investigation project, Pippa changed it, which relieved Elliot. After the interview, Pippa continued to check the writing, and she realized that this writing was written on paper from the Idy House Hotel. When she got home, her mother asked why Pippa was in a hurry again. Pippa couldn't lie to her mother, so she told her she had found a new clue, and that she and Rady would check it out. Pippa's mother forbade her from going, but Pippa chose to go anyway. Pippa and Rady were already on their way and thought Andy and this secret adult man might often meet at the hotel. Or maybe Andy was still alive and living in the hotel. Not long after they arrived at the hotel, Pippa showed Andy's photo at the reception desk and asked if the receptionist had ever seen her, but the receptionist ignored them. Pippa wanted to see the guest book from 5 years ago, but of course she was refused. Unable to understand, Pippa turned on the fire alarm, so the hotel had to be vacated. Pippa and Rady used this moment to steal the guest book from 5 years ago. Because they couldn't get out, Pippa and Rady went upstairs to one of the empty rooms. Pippa and Rady felt awkward because they were alone in the hotel room. Pippa went to the bathroom and realized something, then took a selfie. Pippa showed the photo to Rady, and it turned out that Andy's sexy photo had been taken in this bathroom. Then they left using the emergency stairs to leave without being caught. They went to a restaurant and checked the guest book, but Pippa couldn't find Andy's name. 2 days before Andy disappeared, someone came to the hotel with a fake name, and Pippa realized that the writing was similar to Andy's. Pippa returned home and was still checking the guest book. This person with a fake name had checked into the hotel several times and left a phone number. Pippa tried to call him, but the number was no longer active. Pippa decided to save the number as a secret adult male, but what surprised her was that on January 1st, she found her father's name checked in at the same hotel. The next day, Pippa asked her mother about her father returning to Nigeria 5 years ago. Why was it only her father who went? Pippa's mother replied that he didn't want to take Pippa and her little brother on a long trip. However, with this answer, Pippa realized her father was lying because he had stayed at the hotel that day. When she was going to school, Dan was waiting for her. Dan knew he and Rady had sneaked into Andy's house yesterday, so he wanted to talk to her. Pippa got into the car, and Dan took her to Andy's house. Dan explained that he and Nat didn't have parents, so they supported each other. It was very hard, but they got through it, and Andy's father often helped him by giving him jobs so he could support Nat. Andy's father also suggested he become a police officer, and Dan greatly respected Andy's father. When Andy disappeared, it made her father very sad, and so did Dan. Dan wanted Pippa to stop bothering Andy's family because they were still sad even though 5 years had passed. Pippa fought back by saying Sal's family was sad and even discriminated against. Dan replied that what they experienced was Sal's choice, while Andy had no choice. Of course, Pippa still thought Sal was innocent even though she couldn't prove it. Dan then showed the CCTV footage of Sal being interrogated. Sal was very aggressive and even attacked the police. This was the first negative side of Sal that Pippa had seen, making her hesitate. Later, Pippa comes home, and at this time, Pippa has mixed feelings. She tells her mother that her stepfather lied about visiting Nigeria because he stayed at a hotel. It turns out her mother knows that and explains that 5 years ago, they were having problems. Pippa's stepfather has a lot of work, while her mother has to take care of 2 children. Being apart for a while has proven to calm them down, and their relationship has improved, so it's not like Pippa thought that her stepfather was having an affair. The next day, Pippa and Rady meet. Pippa says that Dan showed Sal's interrogation tape and Sal looked very aggressive. Rady thinks this is normal because his girlfriend disappeared and the police accused him of killing Andy. Pippa replies that Sal is lying and said he didn't fight with Andy the day Andy disappeared. 5 years ago, Pippa saw Andy crying and Sal chasing her the day Andy disappeared. Sometimes Pippa thinks if she didn't tell Sal where Andy was, would Andy still be alive? Now Pippa thinks that Sal may have killed Andy. Of course, Rady doesn't accept it and thinks Pippa did all this just for herself and not to find the truth. Pippa then meets Kara to confide. Pippa asks if it's possible to know someone your whole life and still not know them. Pippa, Kara, and Naomi play until nightfall. Naomi asks about the progress of her investigation, and Pippa replies that everything is wrong and thinks that Sal might have killed Andy. Before leaving, Naomi says that Pippa can borrow her laptop to watch a movie. Naomi recommends Tango Tits. Then curious Pippa borrows Naomi's laptop and searches on Google for Tango Tits. So far, all she has seen is a porn website, but it turns out that Tango Tits is the name of Max's Instagram account. This is a clue from Naomi. From an Instagram post, Pippa realizes that there is a photo of Max, Naomi, and Jack on the day Andy disappeared. There are only 3 of them, and this is not a selfie, which means that the person who took this photo was Sal. From this photo, the time is 12:06, which means that Sal was at Max's house until 12:15, even though Max and Naomi said that Sal came home at 10:30 at night. Pippa is on the committee for the 2019 class reunion party, which is Andy's class. Pippa is here to meet Naomi. Naomi takes her to a quiet place, and Pippa asks why Naomi, Max, and Jack lied that Sal came home at 10:30. In fact, he was still at Max's house until 12:15. Naomi answers that they have to lie because the real killer knows what they did. Flashback scene in 5 years ago, Naomi, Jack, and Max attended a party. However, Sal did not go with them because he did not like parties. While returning from the party, Max was driving drunk and had an accident that caused a car to flip over. While they were not injured, they all panicked, but Max asked Naomi and Jack to get back in the car. Then Max called someone and left the scene without checking on the person they hurt. A few days later, there was an article on the news explaining the accident as a single vehicle accident, and the driver died. Naomi didn't know who Max called, but he managed to save them from this problem. They never told anyone about this, but a few months later, after the police questioned them about Andy's disappearance, a letter arrived at Max's house. The letter contained instructions for Naomi, Max, and Jack to lie to the police that Sal left at 10:30. They also had to delete all photos taken of Sal after 10:30. If they refused, Andy's killer would tell the police that they had been involved in a hit and run. For the past 5 years, Naomi had suffered greatly because her best friend committed suicide. It turned out that Max overheard their conversation. Of course, the accident was not intentional, and they were also afraid of Andy's killer's threats, so that they couldn't do anything. Max thought that even though Pippa knew this, she had no proof. Pippa denied that she had any evidence to prove it. Max asks Naomi and Jack to delete all photos of Sal after 10:30, but Naomi deliberately leaves a clue in the form of a photo taken by Sal with a clock on it, hoping that someone will notice it one day. Max gets angry and throws Naomi's phone until it breaks. Max is also angry with Pippa, but he chooses to leave her. Now the heaviest burden on Naomi's mind is gone, and she can dance happily. Pippa tells Kara all the information she just got. Now Pippa is sure that Sal is innocent. She will find a way to clear Sal's name without telling the problem about the accident, so Naomi will not be jailed. Pippa focuses on who is threatening Max, Naomi, and Jack, who knows about the accident. Before going to bed, Pippa goes to the kitchen to get food. However, at the same time, her dog keeps looking outside, even though Pippa can't see anything. Not long after, Pippa receives a message from a number she doesn't recognize, who sends her a message again to stop this investigation. Pippa thinks the person who threatened her is outside, so she goes outside, but she doesn't find anyone. In her room, Pippa makes a video saying that she knows who killed Andy and will share it tomorrow. Pippa can't sleep, so Ravi sees the video and comes to her house. Pippa tells Ravi that she now believes that Sal is innocent. However, they still don't have enough evidence to prove it. Pippa thinks that the person who threatened her is Andy's real killer, so by uploading the previous video, maybe the real killer will show himself. The next day is Josh's birthday party, so Pippa is busy celebrating. Pippa receives another threatening message saying she will regret making the video last night. If Pippa doesn't drop this case, Pippa will not see him again. Pippa thinks this threat is directed at her brother Josh. However, when she sees Josh, Pippa is so happy that she hugs him, but realizes that her dog is nowhere to be found. Scared, Pippa makes a video apologizing, saying that last night's video was just a joke, and that she and her family are still looking for their dog. Pippa eventually finds her dog dead on the side of the road. This death makes Pippa want to investigate this case even more. The article about the accident 5 years ago reported that the person who found it was an off-duty police officer. Pippa went to the police station to talk to Dan. When Dan met her, Pippa told him about the accident 5 years ago, and Dan took her elsewhere. Pippa told him Max called Dan at the accident to cover up their mistakes. This makes Dan the only person who knows the truth about the accident besides Naomi, Max, and Jack. Pippa thought that Dan was the one who threatened them to lie to the police. Dan explained that he and Andy had a relationship for 2 years before Andy disappeared. At that time, Andy was still 15 years old, which meant that their relationship was illegal, and Dan could be jailed for it. Somehow, Max finds out about their relationship, so Max threatens to expose their relationship to Dan. Dan was forced to cover up the accident case. This means that Max threatened Dan and not vice versa. If Dan wasn't the one who threatened Max, Naomi, and Jack, then who else knew about the accident? Pippa then met Ravi and told him everything. Ravi advises Pippa to stop investigating the case because Andy's killer was brave enough to kill Pippa's dog, and Pippa might be in danger. Pippa is still young and has a bright future. Currently, Pippa is taking an exam at school, and she does it as usual. When she is about to go home, Pippa is surprised because she receives a call from the secret adult male number she found in the hotel guest book. When Pippa answers it, it turns out that the caller is Naomi, who uses her father's old cell phone because Max destroyed it. Naomi calls Pippa to express her condolences for the death of her dog, but with this, Pippa finds out that the secret adult male in a relationship with Andy is Kara and Naomi's father, Elliot. Pippa is going home in Elliot's car, and she can't stop thinking Elliot has a relationship with Andy. Pippa is hitching a ride because she will hang out at Kara's house. While inside, she sneaks into Elliot's office and uses his computer. She checks the printer history on Kara's birthday and reprints it, and she finds the threatening paper she found while camping in the forest. This means Elliot was the person she saw in the forest that night. Pippa intentionally left her phone in Elliot's car to follow Elliot with her laptop, who stopped at Kara's old house. Pippa sent a message to Reddy. It seemed that Andy was still alive and locked up in Kara's old house by Elliot. Pippa decided to go to Kara's old house to see Elliot's car. Pippa could see her phone in the car but couldn't take it because the car door was locked. At the same time, Elliot caught her. Pippa accused Elliot that he kidnapped and locked Andy in this house for 5 years. Of course, Elliot denied it. Pippa checked the house, but she didn't find anything. Pippa also said that she knew Elliot had a relationship with Andy. Elliot explained that Andy had difficulties studying at school and asked Elliot to teach her privately. Elliot had just lost his wife then, so he and Andy had a relationship, even though Andy was only 17. However, after Andy dated Dang and Sal, the relationship ended. Of course, Pippa didn't believe it because Elliot and Andy were still meeting at the hotel 2 days before Andy disappeared. Elliot explained that the meeting was because Andy wanted to blackmail him for money. And if not, Andy would report their relationship so Elliot could be arrested. However, Elliot refused and left. On the night of Andy's disappearance, Andy returned to his house and blackmailed him for £5,000. If Elliot didn't give the money, Andy would report him to the police. Elliot still refused, and Andy became aggressive and attacked him. Elliot pushed Andy until she fell hard and bled. When Elliot called the ambulance, Andy disappeared. Who knows where? That was the last time Elliot saw Andy. Pippa believed Elliot's story, but suddenly she heard a banging sound from the pipe connected to the roof. Pippa realized something was on the roof and went to check it out. She found a woman there, but it wasn't Andy. This woman introduced herself as Isla. 5 years ago, Isla lived on the streets, saw her, and thought she was Andy. Elliot brought Isla to this house to rest. The next day he was drunk and explained that he had killed Sal by giving him drugs until he overdosed forcibly. Isla tried to escape, but Elliot held her and locked her up here for 5 years. Pippa had called the police, and Isla was saved while the police detained Elliot. Pippa's stepfather was there to calm her down. Now the case of Andy's disappearance was over even though Andy's body had not been found. Pippa met Ravi. Now that Sal has been declared innocent, Ravi has decided to move on from his life and will go to college. Pippa looked sad to hear that Ravi was going out of town. Of course, when at school, people would look at Kara with a strange look because her father killed Sal. But Pippa and her best friend will not let Kara suffer alone. At home, Pippa is still crying because she wants to find the truth, but what she does is destroy Kara and Naomi's lives. Of course, her mother calms her down by saying that Pippa has helped Sal and his family if they are innocent. She also saved Isla, who might have been locked up for her whole life if Pippa hadn't found her. But Pippa's mother tells her that Elliot still denies that he killed Andy. Hearing this, Pippa feels something is strange. She checks again the threats she received while investigating this case. It has been proven that the one who sent the threatening letter while she was camping was Elliot. However, Elliot could not have carried out the threat from the messages because on the day Pippa's dog died, Elliot and his family were on vacation out of town. So the person who killed her dog could not have been Elliot. This means that two people threatened her who might be Andy's real killer. Pippa meets Elliot in prison. Elliot apologizes, but of course Pippa doesn't accept it. Pippa asks why Andy needs money but doesn't know either. Elliot explains that when he and Andy were in a relationship, they often told each other that her father often controlled her and Becca, like not allowing them to have a boyfriend or go out to parties. On the night Andy disappeared, Andy's father said that she had dinner with her friend that night, but Elliot knew he was lying. This is because on the night Elliot was looking for Andy in the woods, he saw Andy's father driving a blue van. Elliot also explains why he knew about Max's accident. A few days after the accident, Naomi became strangely sad and didn't want to talk to him. Elliot checked Naomi's diary and found a note about the accident. Elliot was afraid that he killed Andy. But if Andy was still alive, Andy could report him to the police because of their relationship, and he would be arrested. He didn't want Naomi and Kara, who had lost their mother, to lose him too, so that's why he killed Sal and made it seem like Sal killed Andy to protect his child. Pippa goes to Rady and tells him that Andy's killer is not Elliot, but Rady has moved on and is leaving town, so he can't help her. Alone, Pippa sneaks into the junkyard owned by Andy's family to look for the blue van that Andy's father used. Pippa manages to find it, but she finds nothing there. Andy's father realizes that someone is sneaking in, but the one who finds Pippa is the woman who saved her at the previous calamity party and who turns out to work here. Pippa tells this woman everything she knows. This woman explains that the night Andy's father drove the blue van was to check this place because the alarm was activated. After checking for nothing, Andy's father returned to dinner with his friends, which means that Andy's father was not lying. This woman explains that she knows Andy's father likes to control her, but the reason is clear. Andy is a wild child who likes to party, while her sister Becca wants to be like Andy. Their father is forced to be strict with them because he doesn't want anything bad to happen to them. This woman also turned out to be Becca's best friend. She explained that Becca attended a calamity party 5 years ago. She was given drugs, so she was dizzy and unconscious, and someone raped her. Pippa went home and remembered Max saying that Andy was his drug supplier. Pippa realized that one of Andy's buyers with the initials TT was Tango Tits, Max's Instagram name. Max bought Rohypnol, which was a drug used for rape. Pippa called Max and recorded it. She told him that she knew Max gave Becca drugs and raped her 5 years ago at the calamity party. Max denied that he had a relationship with Becca based on mutual consent. Pippa went to Becca's house. Pippa told Becca that she knew what Max did to her. She also knew that Becca was driving Andy's car on the day Andy disappeared. Becca gave Pippa tea and explained that the night after being raped by Max, Becca told Andy to report it to the police. However, Andy didn't want to do that because the drugs Max used were bought from her. Andy's reason for selling drugs was that she needed money to escape. Becca felt that Andy had left her. At that time, Andy had just come home to Elliot with her head already bleeding because Elliot had pushed her. Andy and Becca fought and accidentally pushed Andy until her head hit again. This time, Andy was unconscious and her mouth was foaming. Becca panicked, realizing that she had killed her sister. Becca then hid Andy's body somewhere and wanted to show it to Pippa. Pippa and Becca left using Becca's car. At the same time, Ravi changed his mind and came back. He saw Pippa's car in front of Becca's house, but when he knocked on Becca's house, no one answered. Ravi went to Kara's house because he thought maybe Pippa was there. However, it turned out that Kara didn't know either. Ravi told Kara that he was worried about Pippa. With Kara's cell phone, he could track Pippa's cell phone, which was currently in the forest. Meanwhile, Becca takes Pippa to the forest. There is a cave there, which is the city's septic tank. At the same time, Pippa feels dizzy because the tea Becca gave her was mixed with drugs. Becca shows that she dumped Andy's body in this septic tank. Becca plans to put Pippa in this hole too. Pippa starts to feel weak but still has the energy to fight and try to escape. Unfortunately, she is unconscious when Becca drags her to put her in the hole. At the same time, Kara and Ravi appear and manage to save her. Ravi has also called the police. Flashback to 5 years ago, when Andy was crying and Saul was looking for her. It turned out that Andy was crying because her father found out about her plan to run away. Andy brought all the money she had collected. Saul met Andy to calm her down and ensure everything would be okay. They planned to leave here and start a life together because they loved each other very much. However, as we know, they were both killed before they could do it. Time passed, Becca was arrested, and Andy's case was officially solved. While walking alone, Pippa meets Max. Pippa still hates Max because he is a rapist. Pippa promises that she will put Max in jail. With that, this story ends.